Hey everyone, I'm Maria and welcome to Strict 3D Craft. This is the first series on my new channel and it's called Sweets and Wings. I guess you can see why I called it like that. In this series, I'm going to show you how I created a cute 3D bed from the very beginning all the way to the finished model. So let's get started. In this video, I'll take you through the full sculpting process of my stylized bed character, from rough blockout to fine detailing. I'll talk about design choices, share sculpting techniques, and explain how to bring personality and charm into the character. So, I started my sculpting with the ice cream cone. As I mentioned in the last video, I wanted to sculpt the cone by hand to get a soft, slightly stylized look. The form must be simple and it must feel friendly and handcrafted. Later, I'll add some details to the surface, but I will try to keep it clean and readable. After finishing the cone, I moved on to the ice cream itself. The main goal here was to create a beautiful swirl. It needed to look delicious and closer to real ice cream than it was in blocking. First, I added Dynamesh and smoothed out the surface of the base asset. Then I started sculpting the drips of the main shape, making sure they felt natural and tasty. I paid extra attention to the transition between the ice cream swirls, making sure everything flowed smoothly from one curve to the next. To achieve that, I softened certain areas and used the inflate brush to add volume where needed. I then went over it again to smooth and polish the form for that perfect creamy look. So the ice cream is almost done. Now it's time to add some decorative elements. On the concept art there are two candy sticks, but for optimization and to speed things up, I only sculpted one. Later I would duplicate them so there will be like in the concept art. So just like before, I start with Dynamesh and focus on refining the base blockout shape. Then I move on to sculpting the caramel-like ridges on the candy sticks, giving them a sharper, more defined look to really capture the sweet stylized detail. After I finished the ice cream, I moved on to sculpting the candy props and the rest of the environment. Star and dash are all simple shapes, but it's important to give them just enough form and polish to support the style. They must be not too complex, but still full of personality. So let's keep working on the environment elements. Next up is the cherry. The shape of the cherry itself needs some refinement. In the blockout, it ended up looking a bit too artificial. So I'm tweaking the form to make it feel more natural and organic. It's also important to carefully sculpt the area where the cherry connects to the stick it will be hanging from. Getting the transition right helps sell the stylized charm of the piece. Great, now let's move on to the jelly. Even though it's a relatively small element in the scene, it really adds a sense of motion and helps bring the background to life. The splashes of jelly spread out and give the composition a nice feeling of space and energy. The initial blockout came out a bit too angular. So now I'm rounding out the droplets and reshaping them to look more like they're dripping naturally. To do that, I build up volume and smooth out the mesh. I'm also adding extra geometry to create the trailing drips, which helps convey that sticky, viscous jelly texture. I keep refining the shape until it has the smooth, flowing look that captures the unique feel of jelly. it's finally time to sculpt the bat. I started sculpting from the face since it's the most important part of the composition and set the tone for the entire model. I did put a lot of focus on the expression and overall mood. I really wanted to capture the same charm for my original concept, especially around the eyes and mouth. After increasing the poly count and smoothing the mesh, I began refining the shape of the skull to better match the concept. I focused on building up the most characteristic facial features, the round cheeks, the little nose, to really capture the personality of the design. Throughout the process, I constantly checked how the head fits with the rest of the body to make sure everything feels balanced and cohesive. It's important to capture the smile just right. That means clearly separating the jaw from the main shape of the skull. I also aim to keep the nose small and delicate, just like in the concept. Once I was happy with the overall shape, I moved on to the refining the details of the jaw and nose, making sure everything felt clean and well defined. To move forward with the face, I needed to define the eyes. Since I knew this model wouldn't be animated, I didn't use separate eye spheres, just some simple shapes. At this stage of the sculpting, I'm moving from the head to the ears. The initial blockout came out quite angular, so I'm focusing on reshaping them to be smoother and more organic. These ears are a key part of the character design. They are large, expressive, and instantly draw attention, which makes them essential for communicating personality and mood. Their oversized shape gives the character a slightly whimsical and charming look, helping it stand out visually. That's why it's so important to get the curves, proportions, and flow of the ears just right. At this stage, I felt like something was missing from the design, so I decided to add a bit of fluff on the head. I started modeling some tufts of fur inside the ears and around the top of the head to give it a softer, cuter look. When I need to create elements like hair tufts or curls, I usually reach for the move brush. To build up volume, I really enjoy using the clay build-up brush. It gives a lot of control and texture right from the start. The original concept didn't include any fur in this area, but I thought it was a nice creative addition. It helps visually connect the fluffy collar to the head, making the whole character feel more cohesive and stylized. The character's neck is covered in fur that continues down the back, blending seamlessly into the rest of the design. My goal was to sculpt the fluffiest, most expressive collar possible, something that would add a strong sense of charm and personality to the character. This stage, my focus is on smoothing and refining the base structure, carefully building up the silhouettes and flow of the fur. It's important not to jump into details too early. Getting the big shapes right gives the entire piece a strong, cohesive foundation. Once the main form has a pleasing rhythm and volume, I move on to adding smaller clumps and strands to bring the color to life. These subtle details help emphasize the texture, softness, and motion of the fur. With the color looking so full and fluffy from behind, I was inspired to add a few extra colors of fur to the back of the bat's head. It felt like a natural continuation of the design. Just a few playful tufts to help visually tie the head and body together in a more cohesive way. From there, I began sculpting medium-sized curls around the collar and upper back. These tufts of fur break up the surface, and they add energy to the silhouette and give the character an even more playful and dynamic feel. They add movement and help prevent the shapes from looking too static or flat. Of course, I paid special attention to the front of the collar, especially near the face. This stylized fluff element isn't just there for aesthetic appeal. It is also a design solution that simplifies the rigging and animation process. By making the colors thick and voluminous, I'm able to hide the neck underneath. That means I don't need to spend extra time modeling and rigging a complex neck, and at the same time, the character ends up looking even cuter. It's a practical and creative win on all fronts. Starting with the wing frames, in my case, they are stylized arcs, but it's still important to hint that these are essentially arms. So I want to keep some subtle suggestions of muscle structure and joint placement just enough to ground the design in anatomy without losing the stylized look. It's especially important to get the arms right, since the bat is holding the ice cream. If the limbs aren't handled correctly, it could throw off the whole composition and make the pose look awkward or unbalanced. I need the structure to feel believable even within a stylized design, so the bat looks naturally supported and connected to the scene. Now I'm moving on to sculpting the lower part of the body. Even though it won't be very visible in the final render, it's still important to get the proportions and overall feel just right. Every detail contributes to the character's believability, even the hidden ones. I'm also adding a bit of fur to the torso. Since some of it will peek out from under the fluffy collar, it needs to match visually and flow naturally. Keeping then cohesion between different parts of the design, even in the subtle areas, really helps unify the final look. And of course, I couldn't forget the tail. It is small, but it adds the perfect final touch, especially from the back view. A tiny detail like this might seem simple, but it really helps bring the character to life. Next up, the legs. They'll be short and adorably chubby, adding a playful and endearing vibe to the character. To really make them feel soft and expressive, I'll be building up a lot of volume, carefully shaping them to keep a sense of weight and roundness while still fitting well within the overall proportions. These little legs will definitely bring a lot of charm and character to the design. And now I am happy with the overall sculpt of the bat. The next step is to gradually increase the Dynamesh resolution across different areas of the model and start layering in more detail until everything reaches the right level of refinement. I'm excited to bring this little guy to life with all those final touches. I'm starting again with the face, this time focusing on adding eyelids to enhance expression and give the bat even more personality. Once the eyelids were in place, I realized the facial proportions still needed a bit of tweaking. Using the Move brush, I gently adjusted and reshaped part of the face to bring everything into better balance. It's a subtle process, but finding the right proportions make a huge difference. From there, I kept deepening the detail path, refining the mouth, sculpting a more natural smile, and polishing other facial features to really make the expression shine. Next, I adjusted the eyes to better fit the new eyelids, making sure the flow between the elements felt natural. Then I moved on to the ears, giving them extra attention since they play such a key role in the character's silhouette and overall charm. It is all about making sure each feature works together in harmony. From here, I continue working in the same logical order I followed during the initial sculpting phase. Sticking to the original sculpting flow helps me stay organized and ensure that every part of the model gets the care and attention it deserves. That wraps up the sculpting process for my stylized bat character. I had so much fun exploring shapes, playing with proportions, and adding all those fluffy, expressive details. I hope you enjoy following along and maybe picked up a few tips or inspiration for your own projects. Next comes a super important step, retopology, where I'll turn this sculpt into a clean animation-ready model. I'll be walking you through that in part 3, so make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like or leave a comment if you'd like to see more behind the scenes breakdowns like this. See you next time!